Welcome back to Fantasy Football Fam. I am joined here once again with Tedder here.
What's good?
Yes. And Mason could not make it today, unfortunately. It's very snowy around these parts, so he couldn't make the trip.
Yeah, so Merry Christmas, Mason.
Yeah, Mason, you get the week off.
Yeah.
Some of us have to work still.
Yeah.
No, but he is going to join us a little bit later via telecommunication.
Sweet.
So you are in for a great show full of information today. Just want to remind you all, injuries are still happening.
Yep.
Bye week's still happening. So make sure you are loading up on depth. Make sure you are monitoring your rosters. I've seen a lot of people leave injured players in, which, it's going to lose you your week a lot of times. You know? Zero in any slot is a hard thing to overcome.
Yeah, and there's still time to make a run. You can still make a run at the playoffs. Don't give up if you're 0-4. I'm 1-4. So sorry, 0-5. I'm 1-4, and I'm still scratching the clawing because I can make a run. So don't give up yet.
Well, so most leagues are going to have either 13 or 14 weeks of regular season. So you could be 0-5 right now. And you could still end up 8-3 or 8-5.
Yes.
So you can make the playoffs with that kind of record, and it kind of depends on your sort of playoff situation. But most playoffs, half the people make it or more.
Yep. So don't give up.
Don't give up. And a lot of times, last year, James Robinson and Myles Gaskin, we talked about this earlier, like at the beginning of the show. They really killed it.
Yeah.
And you could have picked them up off of the waivers early on in the season. There's going to be players that you can pick up. Like even this week, we talked about Damian Williams, Devontae Booker, Kadarius Toney. These guys can be game changers for your team. So if you're staying focused, paying attention, you can still make stuff happen for your team.
Definitely.
So this week, we are going to be talking about trade targets. There's a lot of people out there, and these are essentially players that we expect to perform better than they have performed thus far this season. Maybe some players that we believe their fantasy managers might be a little disgruntled, but we want to be very clear. Consider these guys potential targets, and it doesn't mean you have to go out and get them, and you should never trade more than a player's worth. But every manager values players differently. So sometimes you just ask, like, hey, would you want to trade this guy for these people? And then the worst thing that happens is they say no. But try not to make your trades disrespectful, because that'll kind of hinder you being able to trade with that person in the future.
Exactly.
So, Tedder, you want to start off with a few of these trade targets?
Yeah, let me roll right into it. So, going up north to the old Minnesota Vikings, guy we like to call Adam Thielen is a trade target that we kind of talked about this week. He kind of has a little bit of a foot injury. It doesn't sound too serious, but enough to kind of warrant some worry, but enough worry that you can actually make a run at him in a trade if you really like. Last week was his first week with less than 7 targets, but he does have a lot of TD equity. He's a really good possession, great hands, gets open, so a guy that you can find in the red zone. And teams will start to key in on Justin Jefferson. He's looking like the true wide receiver one, so Thielen will get some movement in between the 20s, and I think they'll start looking at him again in the red zone.
It's kind of like a pick your poison for that team. Either Justin Jefferson's going to go off or Adam Thielen's going to go off.
Yeah, and I think that might be the theme of today's show, is that a lot of these guys that we're talking about targeting are that other side of that pick your poison that teams may start to sleep on. Moving on, Chris Godwin, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. If you've seen the last couple weeks, it's been the Antonio Brown or Mike Evans show, and it seems like Godwin's getting kind of lost in the breeze, but he's not. He's still there. He's still on the team, and he's still damn good. So if you can make a run at him this week, maybe next week, try to get him for some value. He's a guy that I would really, essentially go after and get. Titans. Tampa Bay Buccaneers offense is just unworldly.
Yeah, it's a monolith.
Yeah, so you got Gronk coming back as well, so they can't, not this week, but he's coming back next week, and teams can't guard all those guys. So Chris Godwin, if you can go get him, go get him. Another young guy. Jalen Waddle with the Dolphins. Tua's coming back. Waddle and Parker seem to be their only real options when it comes to throwing the ball. Mike Gesicki is starting to get a little bit of play, but Waddle seems like the guy they want to get to. He's a playmaker. He's good in space. He's got good hands. So if you can get after Jalen Waddle, go get him now rather than later, especially with Tua coming back. Next is another young rookie, another Alabama guy, Devontae Smith. he seems to be Jalen Hurts' favorite option, at least through the air over there in Philadelphia. So if you can go get him, he's getting 7 to 8 targets a game. He's got great hands. He's stepping up, making plays, and they like to get him the ball. So if you can get after him, for a low-end trade, go get him. He's on a team that's not going to make the playoffs, doesn't make a lot of noise, but they're on the up and up. So if you can go get him now.
And these rookies, man, they're probably going to continue to get better.
Yeah.
They just started in the NFL, so they're going to learn, and these guys seem very talented.
Yeah, which another guy that, probably won't make a trade target list because people love him is Jamar Chase, if we're talking about rookies, who's been absolutely going off.
I feel like his value is so high.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even try to trade him away, really, because I don't know. I don't see it stopping.
Me neither. And then finally, this one's a little bit harder because a lot of people who draft a quarterback usually love their quarterback. But Dak Prescott, if you can make a run at him, he's a guy that's going to throw for 350 plus a week. They love to throw the ball down there in Dallas. They still got Zeke and they got Tony Pollard, but they're a team that loves to air it out. Dak loves to throw. So if you can go get him, make a run at him. And if you can't, that's okay because your quarterback's probably good already. But if you're a guy that needs a quarterback, why not make a run at Dak?
Yeah, you got some extra running backs, wide receivers, maybe see if they're interested. I know a lot of Dak Prescott owners were expecting a lot out of him.
Yes.
And he really hasn't delivered that.
Yep.
But I can see him by the end of the year definitely delivering.
Yes.
Yeah. So, Dak Prescott, if you're aiming for a quarterback, I feel like he might be an awesome target. For
Definitely.
Sure.
Yeah, pass on over the baton to Garrison. What you thinking?
So first I want to talk about some buddies. So we've talked about this before in the season, but I'm talking about premium buddy insurance right here, okay? State Farm, Allstate, some of the best stuff you can get. But just be careful when you're going for these premium insurance backs because that's a situation where teams will try to gouge you. Managers will try to gouge you. So don't give up too much like we said earlier. But if you've got Dalvin Cook, you got to try to trade for Alexander Madison.
Yes.
He has been unbelievable in a fill-in role. And the idea that your number one running back can go down and you can get almost equal production from your backup, that is ideal.
Oh, 100%. The thing about Madison is that you may be SOL if you are going to try to go for him because he had a monster day on Sunday. So if you want to make a run at him, do it sooner than later.
And, he's not going to be useful to that team very much. The thing is, he's the most useful to you if you have Dalvin Cook.
Exactly.
So we'll move on to Zeke. Better get Tony Pollard, who looks fantastic. And then Aaron Jones, go for A.J. Dillon.
Yep.
These guys look like they are going to be great fill-ins. And those two players, I think, have some standalone value, too.
Yeah,
if you got super deep league like we do, or if you're on a bye week and you need a fill-in, you can definitely put those guys into your flex. If you do that, you're looking for like 10 points. And that can be better than some guy you pick up off the waivers.
Oh, 100%.
Yes.
100%.
So those guys, they're dually useful.
Yes. Yes.
I don't know if that's the proper grammar for that. Another guy I want to talk about is Joe Mixon. So many touches. He just be doing the bad touch, the good touch. But it hasn't really equated to a lot of fantasy points. But the offense is hitting its stride, man. And it looks like his lower ankle injury is okay. He went back, scored a touchdown last week. And I think if he continues to get this kind of work and this offense gets going like we know it can, I think he can start putting up the numbers in the 20s, consistently. So I'd go for Joe Mixon if you can. Another guy, Leonard Fournette. Ronald Jones has been so bad. He's a non-factor. He takes almost no touches away from Leonard Fournette.
Yeah, we threw him in the La Basura last week.
We threw him in the basura for sure. And that offense is amazing, like we're talking about. It's a monolith. But I think anybody can agree that they need to run the ball more.
Yes.
They are one-dimensional currently. And if they're going to make a deep playoff run, I think they really need to get their run game going. And Leonard Fournette is running better than Ronald Jones, and he catches passes as well. So I feel like Leonard Fournette is going to be a good, solid option for a trade target here if you can get him for the right price. Another guy, one of my favorites, is A.J. Brown. He was on a snap count last week after a hamstring injury, and he still got 6 targets, and he almost caught a touchdown. He's been very disappointing, to say the least. And I think you might be able to find a frustrated A.J. Brown manager that's willing to let him go for a fairly cheap price, especially if your team's in a good situation. After he's got a tough week 6 matchup, but after that, you might even wait 1 week and see if he has a bad week, and then be like, hey, he's not very good, right? Like I'll give you, this wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 for him, and then he blows up at the end of the season.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I do think with Julio coming back, that offense will probably be able to move the ball a little better.
Yeah, I won't rely on Derrick Henry as much, and they'll still rely on Derrick Henry. So.
And Julio Jones isn't a big touchdown guy. AJ Brown is a big touchdown guy.
Yes.
So if it's on that goal line and it's not like 5 or less yards, he's probably going to get looked at there.
100%.
So if they can move the ball, he's going to score a lot.
Yeah.
And then we got a few more. Tedder's going to go ahead and take over here.
Yeah, a couple pointers. If the next couple guys are that I'm gonna list off are guys that if you're like 3-2, 4-1 or better, so technically 5-1 going into next week. After next week, these are some guys that might be great that you can go after. They're injured. That teams may need help with right now. That they have these guys on the IRs and they might need somebody else. So you can maybe make a run at a couple of these guys. First one being David Montgomery. He's out for at least another 3 to 4 weeks. I said 4 to 5 last week when he got hurt, and he's been out 1 game. So he's at least out another 3 to 4 with a knee sprain. So if you see someone in the league that has him and they're struggling and you can give them something to get him, go grab him. Another one is Carlos Edwards-Helaire from the Chiefs. Clyde, goodness gracious. We had the same thing. Well, I'm not a Chiefs fan, and I will be on a record of saying that. So, I'm not even mad that I messed up his name.
Just call him CEH.
Yeah, go Broncos. CEH. CEH, another one. Knee sprain again, right? Or knee...
MCL sprain, I believe. Yeah.
So he'll probably be out 4 to 5 weeks as well.
They put him on injured reserve, so
so
definitely
at least 3
weeks.
Right? Injured reserve is at least 3. So he's another one. The Chiefs love to use him whenever he's there out of the backfield, and he runs really hard. He's a guy that can get to 100 yards if they use him, and he's another guy that will get to 100 yards combined if they use him out of the backfield, and he gets in the end zone. So another guy, if you can get a run at him, go get him. Another guy that may be harder to get because he's not on the IR and he's only doubtful for like 2, maybe 3 weeks, Saquon Barkley. Giants don't really know how to use him. It's looking like he's injury prone, but let's go ahead and knock on the wood for that because we're hoping he's not. Last week was just a freak accident. He landed on somebody's foot, rolled the ankle. Any athlete who's ever played a sport has had that happen. So he'll be back, even though his ankle was the size of a balloon. He'll be back in 2 to 3 weeks with some ice and some rest and some flexion rehab, stuff like that. So if you can make a run at Saquon now, I would do it. Teams may be willing to give him up if they're struggling because they need someone else to put in his place. So if you can go get Daquan Barkley, go get him. And the next is Russell Wilson. Injured finger, out for at least week 10 is what they're saying. Hopefully. So another guy, if you need a quarterback, go grab him. Teams may be struggling and they may drop him or put him on IR. And if you're set at quarterback, go get him right now.
Even if you have like a low-end quarterback that can do and the rest of your team's good.
Exactly.
And you got a good record, you want to get him back for that playoff run.
Exactly. Yeah. So kind of moving on from there, these are some other guys just to kind of target if you can go get them. Chase Claypool out of old Pittsburgh. Juju took a nasty hit to the shoulder and he's probably done for the year. Deontay Johnson's really all they have left. Eric Ebron is awful. So Claypool's going to warrant some more targets. Deontay is a speedster, so he won't get much more than what he's getting already. But Chase Claypool is a monster. He's a matchup nightmare. You can put him in a slot, put him outside, and he'll get in the red zone and be a touchdown vulture. So
I don't think Deontay Johnson can get any more targets than he already does.
Me neither. Yeah, he's not as elusive and as good of a route runner as like a Tyreek Hill type. He's got that speed, but he's just not as a 5-tool route runner like the other speedster are. I mean, Big Ben loves throwing to him, so Johnson is definitely in play, but Claypool's the better option.
Yeah, I think especially for trades, I think people probably value Deontay Johnson more.
Yeah, so go get Chase, Big Chase out of Notre Dame. And then moving on, won't spend too much time on this guy, but he's a good option. Mike Davis, Calvin Ridley will be coming back, who actually I'm talking about next. But, he's been getting 10-plus fantasy points every game, so he's consistent. He'll get you the double-digit points. He's good out of the backfield. He's got 18 catches so far, and he's averaging over 12 carries a game, so he's being used. So if you have a chance to go get Mike Davis, go get him. Looks like Kyle Pitts is starting to take over, and they like using Cordell Patterson as well. But Mike Davis is consistent. So, if we need a running back, a flex RB, or even like an RB2, go grab him.
And Atlanta is looking a little better.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of his lack of fantasy points comes from them not moving the ball.
Agreed. Yeah, great points there, Garrison. And then finally, another Falcon, Calvin Ridley. He's been struggling, not to the point where he's not good, but he's had a slow start compared to where we've pictured him to be.
Right.
He's averaging 10.5 targets a game, though. So, he's getting the looks. But he has 0 touchdowns this season, so you could use that as, collateral, saying, hey, he's been a little bit injured. He didn't travel last week because of a family emergency he had to get to, and Kyle Pitts is coming onto the scene. So use everything you can in your corner to argue why Calvin Ridley should be traded to your team and go get him. So, yeah. Garrison, what you got?
It's kind of funny that you're trying to go get these people, and sometimes you got to talk them down to do it. It's like, this guy is not going to do that good, but I want him. But you don't want him, right? Because he's not good, but I want him.
Yeah,
So
I'm targeting this guy, but he's also awful. So,
you got to do what you got to do, man.
yeah.
So I'm going to talk about Keenan Allen real quick. Managers could be a little worried about Mike Williams, and rightfully so. He looks really good. But Allen is a tremendous route runner, and if defenses have to worry about Mike Williams, that's going to open things up for Keenan Allen more.
100%.
And I don't think they're just going to let Mike Williams score touchdowns on him every week. You're going to have to do something about that. And then, Keenan Allen's going to be the beneficiary of that. Mm-hmm. And he's averaging over 10 targets a game. But I would also not give up too much to get him, because I do think Mike Williams is a thing. I think maybe you find somebody who's upset that they have Keenan Allen. They think the worst of him. You can always ask. And then if they're like, offer them like a RB2, wide receiver 2, be like, hey, I'm looking for Keenan Allen. He hasn't done that good this year, but I think he'll do better. Mm-hmm. Like, what do you think? And then, and if they want like somebody really good, then just don't do it. Another guy, Amari Cooper. Mm-hmm. So the offense is amazing. And Cooper is obviously a stud, but he's been dealing with that broken rib. So, he's had that monster game 1, and then he kind of tailed off a little bit. He's only had 9 targets over the last 2 games, which is a little worrying, and probably worrying the fantasy manager of Amari Cooper. But he has turned that into 30 fantasy points with 9 targets. So that's a good return.
Oh, yeah.
So if they start looking his way more, which I imagine they will, I can't imagine. He had 1 3-target game. I don't think that's going to happen very often. And then the Cowboys have been running it effectively. Like we were talking about with Dak, they're doing a good job on the ground. But I don't think defenses are just going to let them run all over them every time. And so eventually they're going to go back to the pass game, which is going to be awesome for those players. Another guy I want to talk about is Kareem Hunt.
Kareem the Dream.
Yes, he's like the 6th ranked running back as far as fantasy points go. It probably depends on your fantasy league. But touchdowns, man. I don't think his touchdowns are going to slow down. I don't think it's a fluke. I think he's a touchdown machine.
Oh, yeah.
They like to use him when they get in close. Nick Chubb churns up those yards, and then they give it to Kareem Hunt. Nick Chubb gets touchdowns too, but Kareem Hunt has more.
Yeah.
He's got 1 more rushing touchdown than Nick Chubb does. And he's getting over 16 touches a game as a backup running back. And these last 3 weeks, he's been really effective with those. And he is the most valuable buddy in fantasy.
100%.
If you have Nick Chubb, you might have to give up too much to get Kareem Hunt. But if you could have both, you can start both if you need to. And then, if Nick Chubb goes down, Kareem Hunt, set it, forget it, don't even think about it afterwards. Another guy, T. Higgins. I believe his value's a little down from where it's going to end up at the end of the season. He's dealing with an injury, but he really is so good. They looked to him a lot last year. You might worry about Tyler Boyd, but I think Tyler Boyd is what Tyler Boyd is.
Great.
He's a steeper. He's going to get you like 10-something points. He's going to soak up like 5-6 targets, but I think T. Higgins is going to be right up there with Jamar Chase, getting the kind of looks. Obviously, Jamar Chase gets a lot of looks down the field, which is why he's so good. But I do see T. Higgins being better than he's been so far.
I agree.
So that was some buy low candidates, some people that we think haven't done as good as they're going to do for the rest of the season. But on the flip side of that, there's some guys that we think are doing really good, and they're good players, but that maybe you can get way more for them now than they're going to be worth for the rest of the year.
Oh, yeah.
These are, sell high candidates. Tedder, you want to talk about the guy over there in Baltimore?
Ooh, Baltimore Ravens. Hollywood Brown. Marquise It's his given name, though. He's a guy that can sell high. He's been balling lately. And he's been balling because they really only have him, Mark Andrews, and Sammy Watkins to throw to. Rashard Bateman, the rookie out of Minnesota, is coming back. And the other receiver, Boykin, I can't remember his first name. What's his first name?
Miles?
Miles Boykin. Thank you for that, Garrison.
Yeah, you're welcome.
He'll eventually get worked into the offense as well. So, even though Marquise Brown will still be, the spread the field guy that, Lamar will hit deep repeatedly, he's not going to warrant the same amount of targets as he will when these guys start to get worked into the offense. So, if you have him, sell him high. Go get what you need for your team for a playoff run. Another Brown down in Tampa, Antonio Brown, who's been absolutely balling lately. He just had a monster game. People love Antonio Brown. I'm a big AB guy, especially since, he's kind of got his life back together under, the tutelage of old Tom Brady and Bruce Arians.
You said to live in Tom Brady's house.
Yeah. You get around Tom Brady, that's a no mess around type of atmosphere. The problem is that he is still technically the third receiver on the team. You could consider him the 2 if you consider Mike Evans and Godwin 1A, 1B. But either way, he is a third option. And he is a matchup-based option. So he's a hard guy to know each week. Some weeks he'll boom, and other weeks he will be level. He will never be a bust because he will get targets. But after the week he just had, and combining that with that first week that he had, he definitely has room to have more weeks like that. So after a big week from Antonio Brown, if teams in your league need a receiver, especially with bye weeks coming up, sell him high.
Yeah, definitely.
Moving on to a Denver Bronco, Cortland Sutton, who's been an absolute monster. 2 games, 25-plus fantasy points. The other 3 were pretty bad, though. One of them was because, Drew Lock came in. Teddy Bridgewater got hurt last week, so I think that had something to do with it in that game.
Right.
And the other games, he's still trying to get into the flow of himself. So I think he's still a wide receiver 1. I think when Judy comes back, we could see some issue just target share there, but Teddy Bridgewater has been proven to spread the ball around. So that doesn't mean Cortland will be invincible or that he won't show up or that you won't be able to find him because he'll still get the targets. He's still a red zone warranted monster. But you also got to remember Denver has Tim Patrick, Noah Fant, 2 running backs to feed.
How many 25-point games is he going to have going forward is the question.
Exactly. And for the Broncos wide receivers, especially like a Sutton, you want to look for games where Denver may be playing from behind or stuff like that. Then those receivers' values go up the roof like they did last week against Pittsburgh. But Sutton is another guy who just had a great week. Sell him high, especially to a team that may need a wide receiver. And then finally, Emmanuel Sanders. I think he's another one you can sell high. I think he'll continue to do well. And Diggs hasn't really gotten to the flow yet. Diggs has had some good games, but that's also Josh Allen's favorite guy to throw to is Josh Diggs. The chemistry is clearly there now with him and Sanders. And Sanders has been balling enough now that, okay, teams may have to, check on him a little bit, which could open it up for Diggs. And Dawson Knox is starting to get it going, so Diggs will definitely start to see the ball more. So Sanders had another big game. He's had back-to-back big weeks. If you can sell him high, sell him high.
And he had 2 really good games, but he had 2 touchdowns in those games.
Yeah. How many times is he going to score 2 touchdowns?
I don't know how many more weeks he's going to have a touchdown. Maybe. The offense looks great.
Yeah, 100%.
So we'll see. I just don't know. I don't know if I buy it yet.
No, yeah. I think eventually he'll end up being what Thielen is to Justin Jefferson, and Diggs being the Justin Jefferson in that comparison, where Diggs will get it going again. He'll be what he is, and then between the 20s, Sanders will get his pay. But
might be a good week to try to see what you can get for him.
For sure. So I'm metaphorically pass the baton to Garrison.
Thank you. Garrison. Thank you very much. I don't really know what to do with this, so I'm going to set it down over here. So I want to talk about this guy who I really like. And, opposite of Antonio Brown, Mike Evans has been great these last few weeks. He had a rough week 1, but since then it's been pretty solid for him, One thing about it is that Chris Godwin hasn't really got much. And, at some point you got to lock these guys down. And Evans is a touchdown guy, and he's still going to score touchdowns. But Gronk is going to be coming back. And Gronk takes a lot of touchdowns, He scored 2 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks, And so I think if you can get top dollar for him, I would. I don't think you should be afraid to trade Mike Evans. He's going to be a stud no matter what.
100%.
But yeah, some people really like Mike Evans. I think a lot of people were down on him, especially after week 1. and then they see, oh man, he's doing good, and they get excited about somebody like that. And I have him on a few of my teams. And,
Same.
I'm happy with him. But if somebody were to offer me, another wide receiver one that I like, I don't know if you're going to get a Justin Jefferson or anything like that. But, if you can get something of that caliber, Jamar Chase, something like that, I would totally do it. Another guy, Mike Williams, we talked about Keenan Allen earlier. Mike Williams has just gone off. He's the second highest a wide receiver scorer right now. And I think that it does not depend on your league at all.
No.
He has been awesome.
Yeah.
But teams are not just going to let this dude score touchdowns on him all the time.
No, eventually they'll figure it out.
Yeah, he's got 6 touchdowns through 5 weeks.
Goodness.
Yeah, and that kind of production is just not repeatable.
Goodness.
If you have him, you're happy. But if somebody's really trying to go out and get him, go ahead and I would say give him to him for, a good solid piece, a good running back or wide receiver. Another guy is Michael Pittman Jr., who, you got at a steal. You might have even picked him up off waivers early on. He's getting a lot of targets, but I don't know if you watched that game on Monday. Paris Campbell looked really good.
He did.
Paris Campbell looked good, and I think they're going to start shifting some of the targets towards Paris Campbell if he continues to do what he's doing. I know they really were excited about him last year before he got hurt.
100%.
And then T.Y. Hilton's also coming back from IR.
Yeah, Mr. T.Y.
So, yeah, solid piece that you can use for going forward. I would say go ahead and trade Michael Pittman if you can. We're going to move on to our Dream Stream segment.
Dream Stream.
So these are some guys that you can probably find on your waivers. Maybe not. Somebody might have already grabbed them. But that you can kind of plug and play for this week. Maybe not the best players, but they're probably playing a bad defense.
Yeah.
You want to go ahead and take it away, Tedder?
Yeah, I got a couple, and it's weird because all three are in the same game. So stick with me now. Okay. First one, Mr. Heineke from the Washington football team playing the Chiefs. And the Chiefs defense is god-awful. So if you have a chance, if you have a struggling quarterback or a quarterback that has a bad matchup and you're worried about, this is a big week, you need to make a run, you need to win this week's game, I think Heineke is a guy that you might be able to trust. For a couple of reasons. One, he's a gamer, and he gets the job done. Two, they're playing the Chiefs' defense, which is absolutely horrendous, like I've already said.
So bad.
And there's a good chance, possibly a great chance, that they may be playing from behind or going toe-to-toe with the Chiefs, which means a lot of points. So he's going to be distributing the ball around. He's good on his feet, so he likes to run the ball. So, yeah, Heineke, if you can go get him and you can play him. I know I did in one of my leagues. So if you trust Mr. Easton, go get Heineke.
Did you hear that he's getting a deal with Heineken?
That's perfect. That's amazing.
I don't know if that's true, but I heard that.
Yeah, that'd be cool. My last name's Easton, and I never got a baseball.
Yeah, that's a little messed up, Easton.
Yeah, so Easton, I still play softball.
Get it together.
So hit me up. Anyways.
He'll take $50.
Seriously. Just give me an armband at this point. Moving on. J.D. McKissick, another Washington football team player. The reason we like McKissick this week is because we are thinking that the Washington football team will be playing from behind, and he's the best option out of the backfield, so he'll warrant a lot of targets. And he scored 16 or more fantasy points in 2 games this year, so he does get the job done when he's allowed to get the job done.
Yes, you got a Kamara out, you need to fill in. He might be a good option.
Yeah, definitely. And then moving on to the other side, the team that I hate the most, the Kansas City Chiefs, Mecole Hardman. He got 12 targets last week. So they're starting to remember they have him on their football team. That it doesn't just have to be Travis Kelce and Tyreek Hill every week.
They must have heard that I threw him in La Basura.
Yeah, maybe they want to.
We'll make Garrison look stupid right now.
Yeah, so 12 targets last week. Tyreek is dealing with an injury. So Mecole Hardman, if you can go grab him, go grab him. The Washington defense is awful against the pass. They hang their hat on their front 7. And we all know Mahomes likes to throw it around the old ballpark, or ball field. Sorry, it's not baseball. So those are my 3 dream streams. Garrison.
So I want to talk about a guy that you may not have really heard of. My dad actually was on this guy a little early.
Ooh.
He grabbed him before he got traded.
Papa Thaxton?
Papa Thaxton grabbed Dan Arnold right before he got traded over to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
All right.
And after he played 3 days after he got traded.
Yeah.
And he caught both of his targets that game. But this last week, he got 8 targets. DJ Chark just went down. That offense is looking better.
Yep.
You know, this might be a good situation for Dan Arnold. And they went out to get him. So that shows that they like him. They're already using him. They used him right away. So that's good for Dan Arnold. And he's playing Miami next week. So not a very good defense. You know, it doesn't scare you by any means. I believe they're 18th against tight ends. So, yeah, definitely if you need a tight end, Dan Arnold right there. So we're also going to go to a couple of Arizona Cardinals. So...
And I think this segment is brought to you by Bengay.
It's brought to you by Bengay.
Bengay. And why is that?
Because we're talking about AJ Green again.
Ooh, Mr. Retirement Home AJ Green.
Is he older than you?
I'm not sure. I think so, though. But in football years, he's ancient.
He's ancient in football years, and he's not Larry Fitzgerald. So, AJ Green and Rondale Moore. If those guys are taken, you could even take a flyer on Christian Kirk. I think we like those other 2 guys a little better. Yep. The Chargers just routed the Browns secondary.
Yeah.
Obviously, they've got a good quarterback in Justin Herbert, but Cardinals have a good quarterback in Kyler Murray.
Yes.
Green is another big receiver, just like Mike Williams, which he might not be quite as fast right now. And then Moore, I could just see him busting out a big play.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So I like those guys if you need a wide receiver. Also, Tim Patrick. 20 targets over the last 3 weeks.
Oh, yeah.
And the Raiders defense they looked a little scary at the beginning, but they really don't anymore.
No, the Raiders are turning back into the Raiders. So
that's true.
Yeah.
That is true. So, yeah, those are some dream streams you can plug and play this week.
Plug and chug.
Yes. So, we're going to move on to a segment that we like to do every week called Sure Thing.
Sure thing, bud.
And also our positional leaders. All right. So we're going to take it away with the standings right now. I got a sure thing.
Oh, welcome to the party, sir.
Yeah.
Welcome to
I was
the
0-3 until I got the Rams last week. They got it for me. Mason got another sure thing. He's 3-1. Tedder's at 2-2. As far as our positional leaders, Tedder and Mason have 2. I got 1. Derrick Henry. Well, we all would have gotten that.
Yeah, if it wasn't for Austin Eckler.
Austin Eckler, man. You did it us dirty.
Or you could just blame the Browns for having a piss poor defense.
Yeah, seriously. What's going on, Browns? All right, so I'll do my sure thing first.
Cool.
That sound good?
Yeah, I got mine right here. So you go.
Cool. So I'm going to go with the Bills.
Okay.
Versus the Titans. They're at -5.5. And, you know, the Titans are a fine team, but the Bills are looking like the best team.
Okay, yeah.
They got it on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I'm liking that matchup right there. And, you know, I think they win by 6 or more points. I like that.
Yeah, I think that's a fair bet.
Yeah, and so my positional leaders, I got Patrick Mahomes versus Washington. Okay. I got Najee Harris versus Seattle. Okay. With that one, I'm thinking, you know, they got Geno in there.
Oh, yeah.
And so I think that the Steelers might actually go ahead and try to run the ball a lot. Devontae Adams versus Chicago. I don't need to say anything about Devontae.
No, you don't.
I'm going to go with Travis Kelce as my tight end.
Okay.
We all know how great he is. I know he's dealing with a stinger. I'm assuming he's going to play. If he doesn't play, I'm going to switch it over to Mark Andrews. But yeah, we're going to go with Travis Kelce.
I like that.
Yeah. What about you?
I'm researching who the Colts play this week. I don't remember. Hold on. Fantasy fam, let me look this up. Okay, I got it. And we're in. So first, I'm going to do my positional leaders. And since I just talked about the Colts, I'm going to go Jonathan Taylor for my running back position.
I like that.
They're playing the Texans. And they kind of figured out how to use Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield last week and on the ground. So I think he'll build on that performance. Going to the wide receiver, taking the same as my boy, Mr. Garrison. I'm going Devontae Adams against the Bears. He just had a monster day, and I think he'll do it again. And then I'm going to double dip with the Ravens at the tight end and quarterback position. So I'm going Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews against the Chargers. Seeing what, the Ravens have a very similar offensive style to the Browns. And we found out that Lamar can throw, and he can throw damn well.
Yeah.
So I can see another shootout happening, and they're at home. And I think, that game against the Colts wasn't who they are. They can score way more than that, and they can score in bunches. So I can see Lamar and Mark Andrews having good week together.
God, Lamar looked so good.
Yeah, he did. Oh, man. Goodness gracious.
Gosh, yeah, but he's just a running
Yeah,
back.
he's just a running back. So yeah. So play him as one. Bring up your receiver, bring up your DBs, let the receivers run free, and let Lamar just torch you.
Yeah.
And then my sure thing, I'm betting the over. So 55.5 points between the Chiefs and the old football team. I think there's gonna be more than 55.5 points scored. I have a feeling it's gonna be a track race. Hopefully Washington comes out on top because I hate the Kansas City Chiefs, if you haven't figured that out by now. But I could see them combined scoring more than 55.5. So that's my sure thing this week.
Awesome. All right, and then we are going to go over to Mason.
Mason.
Where you at, Mason? All right, send it.
Hey there again. Mason Orcutt coming from Abbey Road Studio, UK, with my sure thing and picks for positional leaders this week. I have the Cardinals for my sure thing, defeating the 3-point favorited Browns. Adding to that, their quarterback Kyler Murray as my positional leader for quarterbacks this week. Najee Harris versus the Seahawks for running backs. The Seahawks are missing a lot. Stephon Diggs versus the Titans. They should put it on them for another good game. And then I can pick Travis Kelce again versus the Washington football team. I hope he lays on the points and they lay off the win. Those are my picks for the week.
Thank you, Mr. Mason. Appreciate you coming all the way over here to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Mace.
No, we're glad you're being safe. We're glad you're not driving in these poor conditions.
Yes.
Oh, yeah, I know you did try to come too. So, yeah, so we actually have another interview from another Go Deep manager.
Awesome.
So we're going to be coming right back with Austin Ontiveroz. And, we're going to chat with him for a little bit, okay? So see you, Tedder, in a moment.
All right.
Today we have Mr. Austin Ontiveroz joining us for an interview. Austin is the commissioner of my favorite league, the Turned Up Trippy Cowboys Part 2. Us and some buddies have been in that league for about 10 years. Maybe
10th year this year.
10th year. Very hard league to win.
Mm-hmm.
Only 4 teams make the playoffs every year. And
Well, I just want to mention that there's only a handful of us that have maybe won the league and only about 3 of us that have won it twice, myself included, but that's beside the point.
yeah, a little self-promotion.
How many times have you won it, Gary?
I don't want to talk about it. Okay? I did get second last year. If you ain't first, you're last, right?
I feel you.
Austin is also in our Go Deep league. He decided to join us. He thought it was an interesting, he doesn't have any other deep leagues, right?
16 team, first time ever.
Yeah.
I was looking at the standings before I got over here, and everyone's pretty much 3-2 or 2-3. There's a couple teams that are 1-4.
I thought it was just 1-4
Yeah.
team, and I think it's Marshall.
Yeah, and I was just like, man,
Sorry, Marshall.
I like this. I like how deep the league is, that it gives a lot of parity to the league, so it's fun.
Yeah, you usually win if 2 of your guys go off.
Mm-hmm.
I think last week I had Sutton and Mike Evans win me my week pretty much because Sam Darnold got me 6 points. Gosh. Anyway, so Austin, what got you into fantasy football?
So I started when I was a sophomore in high school. My brother started a league with some of our cousins and their friends. It was on Yahoo. I didn't know anything about fantasy football at the time. I was a meathead football player, and I was more concerned with playing football, watching the games. I would just care about the big hits. I remember getting on YouTube back in the desktop days and just finding videos of the biggest hits in college football and pro football. So I really didn't take it seriously that first year. I probably won maybe one matchup or something like that. And I didn't even have my team name sorted out. My brother set it all up for me, and he put it in Spanish. And I didn't speak Spanish at the time, so I think that it was like a joke on my small hands or something. But after that, I was kind of just like, I don't know about this thing. I don't want to sit in front of a desktop and have to change a team every week. It took 20 minutes to get on the internet back in those days.
Seriously.
So I took a few years off of it. Once I got to college, though, some of our buddies, we got together and we started that Turned Up Trippy Cowboys League. And there was some shenanigans going on, people paying for players, which highly unethical.
Yeah, seriously.
So we decided to kind of move in a different direction, move it over to ESPN, and I took over the commissioner duties of that. And ever since then, I've just been glued to fantasy football. And then I've been getting in on, I think I'm in 4 leagues now, so it's always good.
Yeah, man. Awesome. Well, what do you like most about fantasy football?
I mean, I'm a little bit of a flamethrower myself. I like to come out and fire off at people. I was honestly intending to come in here and rip down this hideous jersey behind me, but I got too much respect for my guy Vons to do that. I was kind of hoping Tedder would be here too, so I could, get a little banter going back and forth about our game this weekend, the big matchup, Raiders-Broncos.
Well, if you have a message for Tedder, you can go ahead and give it to him right now.
Just know, Tedder, just like week 1 of the Deep Deep League, my team's going to come out on top.
Ooh, okay.
But, I mean, fantasy, I just like being able to follow all the different players. As you guys pretty obviously aware of right now, I am a Raiders fan, so it does make it a little hard to watch football on Sundays. So being able to follow all these different players and kind of have something else to root for on the weekends is fun. Just being able to follow those stats is nice.
Definitely. Yeah, it definitely makes some of those other matchups interesting, even if you don't care about the teams.
Yeah.
Jags, Texans, Giants.
Yeah, those games you don't want to watch unless you have a rooting interest.
Sorry, Jimmy. I know you told me to stop talking crap about the Giants. All right, so if it was somebody's first season, what kind of advice would you give them?
I would say get into a league with people that you know, people that you're comfortable with. It makes it a lot more fun. I'm in a league right now with a buddy from college, but I don't know anyone else in the league, so it's kind of like on the back burner. But being able to have that camaraderie with people, being able to do a little bit of shit talking is always nice. But also make sure that you have some sort of a strategy going forward with it. You want to go out and get the players that you like. Don't try and load up on all of your favorite players. I know Marshall was saying last week that he liked to load up on those Vikings players, which I don't know why you would do that in general. The Vikings are just as bad as the Raiders. I know how to stray away from that one.
I learned that lesson with the Packers players.
Yeah.
Overpaying for people just because they're on your team is never a good strategy.
I mean, I'm happy this year. I got Devontae Adams to fall into my lap, and I'm never going to complain about that one.
Yeah, man. He's a stud.
I mean, fantasy's fun. Have fun with it. Don't take it too seriously. I know that there's money leagues out there. There's free leagues that you may be in. All of them, you should just have fun with it. And that's the best part about fantasy is, I mean, you set your lineup. We watch these players. Some of them blow up. Some of them don't. And you move on, go to the next week.
Yeah, I know sometimes it's hard when your people underperform. But you got to realize nobody has like a crystal ball that can see into the future and know what's going to happen.
Right.
You know, me and him have been playing for 10 years. We were wrong every week.
Mm-hmm.
Field Yates, the fantasy analyst for ESPN, was just telling people to drop Myles Gaskin, and he goes off for 30. You know, like, people don't know. And so you're kind of on par with everybody else right now. You just kind of got to make decisions. Live with them, you know?
Yep.
Great. So when you go to a fantasy football draft, how do you like to approach it?
I usually like to make sure that I know those rules first, those league settings. That league with my college buddy, I got into it a couple years ago, and I thought it was a PPR league, so I drafted this phenomenal PPR team, guys that weren't really gonna get a lot of yards or maybe not even a lot of touchdowns in the season, but I knew that they would get a lot of those receptions over the middle.
Right.
And after week 1, I had like 180 points, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm winning this league. And then he texts me and he's like, hey, sorry, I messed up the settings before the draft and I didn't see it until just now, but this is supposed to be a standard league, not a PPR league. So, I mean, that's not really on me because I followed through with what the league said, and at the time it was PPR, but then he changed it.
Like, yeah, you go into a draft, you can look at the rules. So that sucks.
So knowing those rules is important. One of the big strategies that I used to always follow was running back with my first 2 picks. Just because I know that that's a premium position, as we're finding out this year, running backs get hurt or they're harder to come by.
Mm-hmm.
So I always went there, but I took a different approach this year. Went out and got a quarterback early. I took Josh Allen in, I think, the 4th round in 3 of my leagues, and Patrick Mahomes in the 3rd round in another league. Just because most of the leagues that I'm in, the quarterbacks are getting a little bit more scoring based on yards that they're getting. Maybe there's bonuses. Like in our Turn Up Chirpy Cowboys league, throwing over 300 yards, over 400 yards.
Bonus,
So
yeah.
just trying to maximize as much as you can, but also fill out your roster with the best players available. I don't really like to be tied to, I have 2 running backs right now. I have to get a running back this round. If someone's available that I like, that's a receiver, tight end, quarterback, whatever it is, I'll do that.
Definitely, man. I mean, like having that advantage at tight end is always great.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and just like you got Devontae Adams, that dude can win you a week. You know,
Yep.
Tyreek Hill, he can win you a week. So, you know, just passing up on them because they're not a running back, it's not
Yeah.
a really good strategy.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, is there a certain player that you think will be amazing the rest of the year that you like think other people don't quite recognize yet?
So I got one right now, I would say. We were kind of texting about it this morning in our group chat. I like Rashad Bateman a lot.
Okay.
I was always hesitant on a Baltimore receiver just because Lamar, he can throw the ball, obviously, but I was never really sold on him being this 300-plus yard passer, and now he's showing that he can do that consistently.
400 plus
400,
yard
yeah.
passer.
I mean, he's blowing up right now, so the fact that they're going to get him back healthy and he's going to be able to get a little bit of extra targets, I think, just because Hollywood Brown's having such a magnificent year. Like, I had Hollywood Brown last year, and that kind of scorched my earth a
Me
little
too,
bit.
man. And I was like, I'm good. I didn't
Yeah.
want to touch him this year, and
Exactly.
I should have.
Yeah, so him having a good year right now, I think that's going to be huge for Bateman because defenses are going to have to key in on Hollywood Brown a little bit because he is that deep threat. So I think Bateman's going to be able to slot in and have a pretty nice rookie season. Sammy Watkins is hurt right now, I think.
Yeah,
So-
he's dealing with some. He got hit hard.
Yeah, so
It's a hamstring.
gotta have some sort of person to catch that ball for Lamar. So I think Bateman's going to be able to slot in. And the less obvious one, or I mean a more obvious one, I should say, Tom Brady. I was watching football this morning, and he's projected at like 6,000 yards and 51 touchdowns. And
He's like scorched earth right now, dude.
yeah,
All right. So, Austin, we got your team up here, Degeneration X.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us how you feel about how your draft went and how your team's going so far.
I'm feeling pretty decent about it. I'm a little weak at tight end, and tight end premium league, it kind of hurts you a little bit, but I'm kind of hoping that Zach Ertz can turn it around and get back to that form that he once had. He's been on the up and up. I think he's averaging like 6 targets a game in the last 3 or 4 weeks, so I think that's going to be fine. Draft wise though, Allen Robinson in, what was it, the 4th round, I believe. That one's hurting me a little bit right now. Yeah, I expected him to be my number 1 receiver, and it's kind of not feeling great at the moment.
Yeah.
I got Josh Allen in the 3rd round with a 16-team league. I knew that a lot of those quarterbacks weren't going to come back around to me, so I just went out and snagged him and locked down that position. I really like having A.J. Dillon. I think that he has a lot of standalone value, even if Aaron Jones isn't hurt. And obviously, if Aaron Jones gets hurt, that's going to vault him into a running back 1 position. So
Right.
I kind of like him a lot right now. Deebo Samuel late in the draft as well. I really enjoy that pick. I was telling Gary before we turned the cameras on, I wasn't really high on him. I got him, and I was like, oh, I kind of wish I had Brandon Ayuk instead, but I'm not going to complain about it right now.
I mean, he was leading in receiving yards going into, I think, last week, but I think maybe Devontae Adams passed him up with that 200-yard game. I don't know. He might still be up there.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's a good pick.
yeah.
Even if you didn't want him.
Yeah, I know. Sometimes that luck just falls into your lap. But yeah, deep league. I'm enjoying it so far. I'm hoping that Degeneration X can kind of get over that hump a little bit. Most of the teams in the league are 3-2 or 2-3, so it's wide open for anyone to take right now.
Yeah.
Kind of hoping that Alvin Kamara and Deebo Samuel, Josh Allen, they can kind of carry me.
3 really good players right there. Definitely. Awesome.
Also, I have to mention, I did draft Kadarius Toney. It was like my last pick of the draft. I was like, I think that he might have a pretty good season. And then once waivers were coming, I was like, I need to go get a tight end. So I went and picked Williams from the Cardinals up and dropped Toney. And regretting that about right now after
Yeah.
what happened last week.
Oh, man. I mean, I dropped A.J. Dillon in our Turned Up Trippy Cowboys League, and you scooped him up this week, man.
Yeah.
Sometimes it just happens, you know. I was trying to make some moves, and I think I would have been better keeping him.
Yeah, it's getting tough, especially with bye weeks coming too.
You got to make some business decisions.
Yeah, and Turned Up Trippy Cowboys, I play Andrew next week, and he's got like 5 or 6 guys that are on a bye. And I hope it's the Chargers players, to be honest.
I think that's, you say this week or next week?
Week 7. So
Oh,
next
yeah, I
week,
think it is the Chargers week 7.
Yeah, so I'll be without Josh Allen that week, but hopefully those Chargers players are all his team has.
Yeah, man. Oh, gosh. Yeah, week 7 is going to be brutal. Mm-hmm. All right, Austin. Thanks for talking about your Go Deep Deep team. Next up, I just want to kind of talk about, you know, being a commissioner. You're the commissioner of our Turned Up Trippy Cowboys League. You know, sometimes it can be a lot of work, but, you know, I just want to know kind of how you feel about it. Like, what do you like about it? What do you not like about it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot of fun. It is a lot of work, like you said, but I enjoy having those other guys in the league rely on me. I make sure that group text is firing off. I make sure that any issues that people are having, I'm solving them as quickly as possible. We do a weekly payout for the high score, so I'm also responsible for sending people their money each week. I mean, I should have had money this week, but that Monday night game, Mark Andrews robbed me of $60 there, but that's beside the point. Fantasy commissioner duties, always great to make sure that you are in control of everything, but not with a dictatorial hand. So I like to make sure that I'm including everybody on it and making sure that the league's just running smoothly. And I feel like I love that responsibility. And we both have mentioned how it's our favorite league, and I take a lot of pride in being able to say that I've had a part in that. I'm not going to say that it's all me because there's 11 other guys in the league that have made it amazing, but I feel like that oil that helps the machine kind of run smoothly.
Definitely. I mean, you're good at communicating and making sure everybody is, you know, on the same page and, you know, establishing votes for things we're going to change. That's always good. You know?
I will say, though, so there's come vote time, that can get a little bit difficult, and that's kind of the downfall of being the commissioner sometimes, and making sure that we have that at least half the league vote to pass something. Getting everybody to vote on things is a little difficult sometimes, but to the best I can, I'll do it. I know that Marshall and I had made a trade over the weekend. I went out and traded Derek Carr and Kyle Pitts and Mike Davis for Tim Patrick and Clyde Edwards-Helaire. Kyle Pitts has an amazing week the very next morning when I wake up, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire gets hurt, and I was kind of salty about it. I was like, well, I got to wear this one to the teeth. That sucks. And then Marshall, being the stand-up dude that he is, he texted me and said that we could veto the trade and take it to the league. So I texted everyone and asked if they would veto the trade. And, of course, when I get on to look to see how many people have vetoed it, I'm at 2 vetoes, and one person actually upvoted it. So they just wanted me to eat that one. But that was an instance where I had to step in and use my commissioner duties and kind of veto that one. But, yeah, sometimes it's a lot of work making that schedule too, making sure, because I know that there was one year where we had to play someone 3 different times, and maybe you didn't play everyone in the league, which I know that raised a little bit of stink with people. So making sure that schedule is perfect is meticulous, but
yeah. When I did the Go Deep Deep schedule, I found something online to make it for me, and then I just typed it in manually. That was the easiest way for me to do it.
Pass that my way then.
Yeah, that was kind of, when I was trying to do it through the app, it was really kind of hard, you know, especially with divisions and stuff. You want everybody to play everybody in their division.
Yeah.
It's you only have so many games, so that is kind of difficult.
As the commissioner of Deep Deep League, have you had anyone complain to you yet about anything?
No, not yet. I feel like I've done a decent job communicating with everybody, and I know after week 1, we're doing a tight end premium, and I had to add the points, and I was like, hey, let me know if your points didn't get added. And Mud was like, I don't think my points got added. And I was like, And I did the math real quick. I was like, they did, like, but you can't, like, add the points directly to the tight end. Yeah, just add it to the entire score. So that was really the only thing. Kirsty hits me up with some questions every once in a while.
Of course, Kirsty hits you up with questions.
It's kind of a complicated league, you know. But
know the rules, Kirsty.
she's doing good. She's doing good. Awesome. So last thing I want to talk about is kind of the Raiders sort of situation, how you feel about it.
Yeah, bombshell
Dropped over the weekend. John Gruden, not that cool of a dude.
Nah, definitely not that cool of a dude. And I mean, we talked about it a little bit before we got the cameras going, and you asked how I felt about him prior to all of this happening, and I was optimistic when they first signed him. I mean, 10 years to $100 million, I wasn't a fan of that. It seems a bit of a long time for a coach to get a contract. But the Raiders had such a bad history with coaches recently, since basically the last time Gruden coached them. I was optimistic, but the last few years it's been stale. They're kind of a mediocre team. I know that a lot of Raiders fans like to blame that on Derek Carr. I see him as more of a B-plus quarterback that can maybe reach that A level on certain weeks, depending on how the coaching's going. So I wasn't too high on him, but I mean, everything that came out, especially last week when you first heard what he said to DeMaurice Smith, or what he said about DeMaurice Smith, I wasn't a fan of that at all, and I thought it was a mistake by the Raiders organization to let him coach on Sunday. I feel like maybe that was something where you gotta say, hey, we have to deal with this in a quick manner, and you're just gonna, even if what came out on Monday wasn't actually what happened and it was just that one comment, I still feel like maybe they should have sat him out for a week to kind of do their due diligence and look into it a little bit more. But then obviously we find out on Monday that it was a lot deeper than what we'd initially known, and at the end of the day, I think the Raiders did the right thing of getting him to resign. There's no room for that. You have to be held accountable for your actions, and I don't care if it's my team or another team. I don't care even if I love John Gruden. I don't care if it was the Patriots and it was Bill Belichick. Whatever it is, if you're saying that type of stuff, you have to be held accountable for your actions. So I'm 100% behind their decision to have him resign. I don't think that it was him stepping down, like he said. I think it was more of a, we're going to fire you or you resign type of deal. And
$60 million. Yeah. You know, I don't think he wanted to walk away from that.
Exactly. So I think that it was a good decision on the Raiders' part to kind of give him the axe, and hopefully it's not a dark cloud hanging over the Raiders and the league in general, and that the Raiders can kind of move forward from this. I hope that it's a learning opportunity as well for others in the league, other people around the world, that you have to grow from this. It's not something where it happened to John Gruden and you're like, well, my emails are never going to get scoured or something like that. Like, if you don't want what you're saying broadcast to the world, don't say it at all. Right. There's no room for this type of talk anywhere in the world. So I think that it's a good opportunity, since the NFL is so large worldwide, that people can kind of use this as a way to move forward, and hopefully we can get beyond this type of hate speech.
Yeah, for sure, man. I mean, and maybe it is going to be good for the Raiders to get him out of there. You know, if he's talking like that in his emails, who knows how he's talking with his players. Who knows how they feel about him. I know Antonio Brown didn't want to play for the team. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that had anything to do with it.
Well, that dude's crazy.
He's kind of crazy. But yeah, like, plenty of black players on the team. Mm-hmm. First openly gay player on the team. Yeah. That's kind of things. Maybe it's going to be better for him to get a new coach in there. I know sometimes players like their assistants more than their head coach.
Yeah.
So,
and I mean, the Raiders, they've always been a team that's wanted to stand by diversity, and they had the first Latino quarterback in Tom Flores. They had the second Latino head coach in Tom Flores as well. They had the first black head coach in Art Shell, first woman CEO. So I think that their morals are really high, and that shows why they were so willing to let Gruden just go with everything that happened. And I don't think that their morals are going to waver in any way. So it's a good opportunity for them to kind of be at the forefront of the league, to not show them that this is stuff that shouldn't be accepted by anywhere, but especially not.
This is how you should deal with it.
Yeah.
Even if you do think they made a mistake putting John Gruden out there.
Yeah.
It's a quick decision to make, and one email is different than 7 years of emails.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
once you hear all that, like, we got to do something about this.
Yeah.
Great. Well, thanks for chatting with me about that. I know it's
Yeah.
not always easy to talk about. Any last words you want to say to the people before we finish up?
Just get out there and enjoy fantasy, my friends. Big one coming for Tedder. Raiders Broncos this week, and any other Broncos fans, you guys are trash and you know it. So the Raiders are going to win this weekend. They're going to galvanize around this whole situation. Derek Carr is going to come out and throw for probably like 700 yards or something like that. But yeah, I'm just hoping for a good game. I like watching tight Raiders games, which seems to be the only type of games they win. Fantasy wise, my friends, I just hope that you guys are enjoying it as much as we are here. Try to get into some other leagues that are going to challenge you a bit, like this deep league. I'm really enjoying being in a 16-team league. At the beginning, I wasn't sold on it, but now that I'm in it, I'm like, okay, this is definitely vaulting up into my second favorite league to be in. So really challenge yourselves, get into some other leagues with different scoring, different amounts of teams in them, but enjoy football while it's here, because it's only a short 17-week season or 18-week season.
Always over too soon.
Mm-hmm. But
Great.
then we get to mock draft season.
Mock draft. Yeah, hell yeah. Great. Well, thank you, Austin. Appreciate you coming in and doing the interview. We'll be back with Tedder here, and we're going to be saying goodbye to you. But yeah, thank you, Austin.
Thank
Go
you.
deep. Thank you very much, Austin, for coming in and doing that interview with us. It's always great to hear from another fantasy football manager, commissioner as well. I know you weren't here. We talked a little bit about the whole Raiders situation. He's a Raiders fan, and
Okay.
just a little reminder. Just be kind to people. It shouldn't have to be like because you might get in trouble later on. You should just be
Just be a good human.
a good human. A little quick reminder. But if you do need that, if you're not a kind person or you're like a very rude person, you might get fired.
Yeah, or forced to resign because you can't handle the heat. So
be kind. We got our social medias right down here. If you want to be kind to us and
yes, please.
and follow us, that would be awesome. But ultimately, we just appreciate you watching today. It's awesome for you to join us every week.
Oh yeah, have fun, eat greedy, and see
See you next week, fam.